You call it Mind Over Mountains, and I love this title. I'm convinced that ultra racing is so much more a mental challenge than it is a physical one.
There's loads of videos out there on prepping for stuff from a kit point of view and from a fitness and all of that sort of stuff. But there's not an awful lot out there that I've seen so far that I can find that actually talks about the mental preparation, and don't know if it's possible to mentally prepare for your first ultra.
I think it's prepare for the unexpected, just like,
Yeah.
like just embrace that you don't know. There's so much uncertainty.
I think mental preparation is absolutely huge.
Even, I guess it's not how do you part of it is like, yes, do you prepare mentally? But for myself, it's how do you make sure that you're settled mentally?
And I hear lots of people say it's so important. And then I ask them, well, okay, well, how do you mentally prepare? And I'm not sure. I've not felt like I've got really good answers for people.
So my name is Lynn Diamond Davis.
So my name's Jake.
I'm Oscar. I'm Dutch, 54.
So Steve Hayes, and 44 years of age now.
Okay, well, I'm Erin, and John is my husband.
I'm Kat McGill, and I live in Edinburgh, Scotland. I am 45 years old, if that's relevant information.
I am a part-time ultra enthusiast from Peebles in the Scottish borders. Maybe a wee bit more unusual that I came into this later in life. I've got 3 children who are pretty supportive, young kids, super passionate about riding and bike packing. If you ask the kids, they will say mum is always on her bike, and that's what they'll say about me.
I live close to Amsterdam, in a country where we don't grow up with a lot of elevation. We do have a lot of wind though. I've been hooked to long distance bikepacking ever since my first trip in 2018 to the UK and Scotland. And I now try to complete a 2 to 3 month cycling tour every year. So that's really what I love. I discovered the ultracycling community when I was preparing another tour, and I was immediately sold. So I wanted to elevate my long distance skills and prove myself I was capable of doing that myself. And after a couple of years of dot watching, I decided it was my time. So I signed up for El Piri and Basaraun, and completed both races last year. And this year I have registered for Gravelbirds like yourself, and the Goats, and the final edition of Alps Divide.
I first heard about, well, my dad's always been into bikes and has cycled loads around like Hampshire area, New Forest area. And I never was really like that into it, when you're younger, teenager, things like that. And then a lockdown time, when you got your 1 hour's allotted time, I had a road bike kicking around, and had been out on some of the group rides locally, and then just got into 1 hour riding a day over and over and over again. And then through that, obviously then you have to try and like fix your own bike. So I was using YouTube to, index derailleur, change a tire, that sort of stuff. Found all the GCN videos. And then through that, then found the bike packing stuff with James Hayden, Silk Road Mountain Race, Transcontinental, all that sort of stuff. And that opened my ideas, opened my sort of my head that way. Didn't really follow it up. And then spent a year in Canada snowboarding and seeing friends and stuff like that. And myself and my partner last minute decided to cycle across Canada instead of drive across Canada, and then that's what started the whole bikepacking thing.
I started my ultra career, and I say ultra rather than ultra cycling. So I started ultra marathon running in about 2009 when I was 29 years of age. So I started with marathons and moved on to Ironman triathlons, from there on to a bit of open water swimming, channel swim, and then into ultra marathons on foot. So everything from 50 miles up to 350 miles on foot, speciality, if you like. And then my knees started to give up. They weren't enjoying the ultra running. I'm not the lightest chap in the world. So I swapped. I started doing a bit of rowing for a short period and rowed across the Atlantic. And then after that, I started to get back into running. Knees still weren't happy. And then I discovered the sport of bikepacking or ultra distance cycling.
So I've done a lot of cycle touring, and when I moved to Scotland in 2014, I quit riding my bike because the weather was so pish, and I was like, I don't want to ride my bike in this weather. But I heard about this incredible event called the Highland Trail, and I saw some stories through the Adventure Syndicate about the women who were doing Highland Trail and other events, and I was like, oh, I want to be like these women. They're so amazing, but like, there's no way I could ever do that. Um, so yeah, that was the sort of first planting of the seed, and so my first race was the Highland Trail in 2022.
See, when you go to, so when you're new to things like this, you often look to try, you're like, you'll start to physically prepare, and then to help you mentally prepare, you maybe start getting all your kit and everything ready. But you are right that you look online and you look on YouTube, and one of the best ways I found to prepare was to watch everything on that event, every vlog, every blog, everything to do with that event. So I'm almost riding it without riding it. But it's very difficult to know how to mentally prepare yourself and what you're going to encounter and how to overcome it.
I think all those things, I mean, all the emphasis on physical and kit preparation actually does impact your mental preparation. Because if your kit is good and you've thought about it and you know what you're going to wear in the bad weather, or you know what you're going to do, like that you have all the right things, then you don't get scared or you don't get thrown off your, whatever. And so it helps a lot to actually just feel a lot more confident in that.
Your physical preparation and your equipment and preparation and kit and those sorts of things, it brings a confidence. It brings a sense of peace, as it were, an
Oh,
inner
absolutely.
peace.
I've been used to preparing my rides thoroughly, whether that were the slow rides or the ultra rides. I do a lot of preparation.
I think that there's an old quote about fail to prepare, prepare to fail. And I think that is a really, really valuable one. Just make sure that you are familiar with all your kit, have a method to how you cope with difficult times.
Prior planning and preparation prevents poor performance.
I'm not sure I even knew how to mentally prepare. So I did focus a lot on the physical preparation and just trying to get information about the route. So I guess I felt that if I knew and understood the route, I guess it was a subconscious thing. I was like, if I know what the route is and how it's going to go, then I won't be so afraid of it.
It all basically all comes down to you completing it, right? But the preparation is probably part of the success, a large part of the success, and getting through it mentally as well, I think.
Yeah,
For me, it
yeah,
is. It gives
yeah.
me peace of mind, and that's absolutely something that helps me to complete these races.
But for me, it's preparation first. So when I know I'm going to do a race, then I change all of my drivetrain, drive my husband mad. He's like, I call him a World Cup bike mechanic. I'll hand him a bike. I'll go, right, here's a new drivetrain. Here's a new bottom bracket. I will help so I get an idea. But we change everything, gear cables, brakes, and the preparation for me is that's what I need for the mental resilience.
Making sure I've got the time to go through, because it doesn't matter how many times you check your kit in the months leading up to an event, you will go through and check every single piece the day before, 2 days before, just to make sure it's there. Even on the day, you'll go, I know that I checked this yesterday and it was perfect, but I need to check again, just for your own mental, peace of mind.
Suppose doing your due diligence and preparing yourself as much as you can is something that I still do.
We have been biking together, I think, since we first met, actually. So our whole relationship is actually around biking and how far each of us have ever gone. So it's very like competitive in that. Like one of my first things I ever said to Jono was like, "Oh, he biked here," and I was like, "Oh yeah, how far?" So that just kind of really like solidified all of our stuff. And so I was actually really into biking when we first met and like just pushing myself. And then there was like a charity ride that went from San Francisco down to LA. So I was like, oh, that would be great. It's called AIDS Life Cycle. And I was telling John about that. And so then we started doing like bike packing. And then we did like our solo bike packing trip across the United States in 2019. And then I think we just kind of like kept leveling up of like, oh, now let's do an ultra. And like, it's like fast bike packing and stuff. So yeah, we've been biking consistently, I think, since like I biked my whole life, but like 2015 was when it was like, oh, okay, I want to do more like racing or things like that.
Yeah, you were riding on a cruiser bike right before then, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
heavy cruiser bike.
But that's what made my legs so strong. I
Exactly.
was like, I'm going up these mountains in California on this like 50-pound beach cruiser.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's a perfect segue. I had a similar story where I grew up riding a BMX bike because I got a kid's mountain bike and never really sized up. And so I started commuting by BMX for about like 10 years and only finally got like a 700C bike about 10 years ago to commute to work because it was faster than driving in LA.
Yeah.
Because the traffic took about 45 minutes, biking took 45 minutes. So I was like, this just makes more
Well, it was
sense.
consistent too. Or at least that was my
Exactly.
feeling about biking in
Oh,
LA. I was like,
100%, yeah.
it will always
feel like
take
you're
me
moving.
45 minutes versus like if I get stuck in traffic. So you're like, that's appealing.
100%. And that was like really within a year I met you,
Mhm.
found out you were doing AIDS Life Cycle, wanted to do something with you, already enjoyed biking just as the way it like kind of smoothed the wrinkles in my brain. I would do that to process things just for fun. Yeah, so go from, 10-mile work commute to 26-mile critical mass every month to suddenly we're doing, 100 miles a day for there's like the Midnight Century, and then we did it for
Yeah. Oh, then we biked down to
AIDS Life Cycle. Oh yeah, we biked to Mexico for New Year's. That was the
Yeah.
big first one. Yeah, to cross country tour, to finding about Nelson's races, to sleeping in a ditch somewhere in the middle of the night. Yeah, it's definitely trace the dominoes back. It perfectly tracks. But
I mean, Johnny, you mentioned there about the physical preparation and the kit and the equipment and all of those sort of things. It seems to me that getting those things set bring a calmness and a confidence, then a peace, as it were, in our from a mental point of view, to then be able to tackle when you know that your kit is dialed in, or that you're in pretty good shape. You know that you've done the distances before. That brings a confidence with it, I suppose.
I actually want to plug one of the best bits of advice that Conan gave me before my first ultra, which is do something worse before the thing. Like, make it even harder on yourself
That's
than
true.
the actual event will be, and then the event will seem completely easy by comparison. He definitely said it a lot more eloquently and like in a little bit more of a rational way, but yeah, the idea is, if you've already experienced getting caught out in the rain and everything's soaking and you survive it, and you're like, oh, it's fine. Then suddenly that anxiety about what happens if I get caught in the rain, you're like, oh, well, I'll do this because that's what happened last time,
Mhm.
And knowing those limits and having those experiences of, messing up, right? Doing the wrong thing a lot of times before the actual thing you're scared of. Suddenly it's not so scary anymore because you know what'll happen in all those cases, right? And still something surprising might happen, but you've already been surprised and you've shown yourself that you can figure all those things out. So
But it's that do something worse than what you're about to. That's a brilliant. It kind of ties into the train hard, race easy sort of
exactly.
approach, or or winter miles, summer smiles. Those sort of mantra. But there is a truth in there, isn't there? That if you've got a reference point to go back to, I've done this, so I can do this.
To be honest, when anything has gotten tough in some of the ultras, I basically just go, well, it wasn't as hard as that thing that we did in Canada, so it's not actually not that bad. Or it wasn't as hard as this thing that I've already done, so actually it's not that bad. I think that's kind of how I get through difficult moments or low moments or tired moments. And then obviously there's the knowing that you can do long mile. Like, I know that I've done long miles before with a completely loaded bike, so if I just slow down my pace a little bit, I'm going to be fine and don't overdo it.
But you're right about there's a reference point to go back to. I think the interesting thing for people watching this video is what if you don't have that reference point?
I've done quite a lot of like intense things in my life. So I think those weren't specific preparation, but I've lived in really remote places, in really lonely situations, in difficult conditions. And I've done a lot of fell running in Scotland prior to the race. So I knew the hills well. I knew the weather in the hills, so I wasn't scared of bad weather. And I think just like, putting yourself in a lot of different types of difficult and challenging situations, not just riding your bike or bike packing.
Anyone who's entering an ultra, I'd say 99% of people will have done something difficult that they can refer back to. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything fitness related. It doesn't have to be anything cycling related. It can be, I went through some traumatic things in my past, not to be like cliche, or I've gone through difficult things at work in my past. This is at the end of the day, this is an event that I've chosen to do myself. It's not the end of the world. And if everything does go south, I just have to, provided it's not an injury or anything, I can leave the race. It's not a do or die situation.
Through experience, you build up this resilience toolkit, and you learn what you can use to get you through tough times.
I had the confirmation that I know that I can do this. I know that I've done this before. I think it's about reminding yourself that you can keep doing that when you're so, glucose depleted, your brain's like on the edge.
And I realized that I also had all the knowledge and all the capability and all the skill to do the right things. I just hadn't brought that to my awareness.
I think by doing those races, I gained a lot of confidence in my own capabilities. I think that's for sure. So that really helped me to decide, okay, next year I'm going to do 3 races. I'm going to push it further. So
and so it was like reminding myself, I've been in situations like this before and I've survived them. I know how to work in the cold. I know how to be really tired. I know how to keep going for hours and hours and hours on end. I know how to be alone, and then bringing all those situations to mind where I've been in, where I've done that. And then you have these like buckets of, mental strength to say, well, yeah, I have it. It's like bringing to your awareness, I have the ability to do this.
I think having that reference point is incredible. I've found that, I guess, the most essential thing for me, like getting through some of the races.
It's interesting. I like I said, I quite thrive on that mental challenge, and you kind of, I said about a resilience toolkit and things that you say to yourself and things that you do. So there's well-renowned stuff like, don't make a decision to scratch or DNF at nighttime. Don't make a decision to scratch when you're hungry or you've run out of water. Always try and make informed, sensible decisions, which is always something I've been quite good at, I think, is saying, don't make a rash decision.
Very relevant. What they say is don't scratch in the dark, because if you are going to scratch, it is always going to be in the dark, and that is not because you're going to fail physically, it's because you're failing mentally. You're packing your own bags and you're saying, that's it, it's dark, it's not nice, I'm not meant to be out here, and I'm going home.
Thinking about scratching is okay.
Yeah.
Very normal. That's a big part of it, is that considering scratching is not like people think like, oh, you shouldn't even think about it, because I think people get so scared about even thinking about scratching that they don't even let themselves, and then suddenly becomes this thing where it goes from nothing to, oh, well, I have to, and it jumps, rather than, it will always kind of be this thing that's floating in your mind, and really embracing the fact that that's a thought.
I was in the van driving to the airport with a chap who was an extremely seasoned runner, 15, 20 years older than me, been doing it for years. And I said, I was beating myself up, and I was like, it's my first DNF, I'm gutted. And he said, first DNF? He said, well, you just haven't done enough. He said, everybody DNF, everybody DNFs at some point. And the fact that this is your first, it doesn't matter. It's almost like you've popped your cherry. You've almost got freedom to go and scratch more often now, you know? Nobody wants that. So for me, it's always been, if I start it, I'm going to finish it, or I'm at least going to give 100% effort. And you know, there won't be any excuses. If I get beaten, I get beaten fair and square, and I'll say, you know what, hands up. That was a tough event. Maybe I'll come back better prepared next time.
Yeah. Well, I also think like, you know, I do ugly cry a lot. Like I feel like I have all the emotions and everything on this prize. You know, hard. And I was like, okay, but I chose this. But then I was like, I'm just gonna cry. And so I think for me it was just like crying. And then I think even this ride, I was like, you could scratch. Like that is an option, Erin. Like that is something that exists. And nobody's gonna think less of you. But then of course I'm like, but everybody is gonna think less of me. And you know, and so it is that like grappling, and I think just allowing yourself to have the narrative without getting stuck in it though, right? Where it's like, okay, you know what, but can you push just a little bit further? Okay, just cry, or you know, whatever it is.
So is this another pro tip then? Embrace the ugly cry.
100%, 100%. Don't fight it.
So there's always reason to carry on, and you have to be level-headed enough to go, no, maybe I shouldn't travel across that mountain pass at 3 o'clock in the morning with 90-mile-an-hour winds, because I'm not going to get anywhere anyway, because I'm going to go so slow moving. I might as well benefit from sleep. And sleep, obviously sleep and food helps so much. So if you are feeling crap, just have a really long sleep and eat loads of food.
Are there some key takeaways that you've noted from that experience in the scratch, as it were?
Yeah. You want to add to it?
No, go for it.
Well, I think it's just the like trusting your body, right? The slowing down, like slow it. What is it? Oh gosh, I always say it wrong. Slow is fast. No, slow is smooth. Smooth is fast.
Yeah.
So the idea too, it's like, hey, if I don't feel comfortable in this, I don't have to push it. Like I'd rather make it to the end. Because that was the thing, right? Like on Shamshi, I kept being like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. And we were like, no, you can run it. And it was like, so I think it's the trusting your body, trusting how you're feeling, and then like taking a pause is not going to hinder you as much as you think it's going to, right? I think we get so like, I gotta go. And it's like, you know what? You could take 2 seconds to reevaluate and assess, and that's going to just do just so much for you, I think.
If there is an issue, or you have a problem, or you feel terrible, or something's not going right, it's such a long race. There's such big events. You can take the time to not walk away, but have some headspace to then go back and try and reattack the issue. It's not like a problem that you're trying to solve at work where you can get a clean set of eyes on it, because obviously it is an unsupported race. But you can kind of try and take yourself out of it and think it through and just say, have I gone through every single step and every single eventuality before I decide to scratch? And then if you have, then fine. But you often haven't tried everything, and you often haven't had the time to think about everything when you're in the moment of the issue. So,
but I really thought that I needed to do some actually dedicated mental work. And so I had a coach at the time that I was using for my work, like professional work. And I asked, she was also a performance psychology coach. And I said, do you think you could help me with preparation for this race? So there's actually mental techniques that you can use to prepare as well. And I think I just was like really craving more information about that when I started, just so that I could go in feeling not just physically prepared, but really mentally prepared.
And you see what your mind is capable of putting up with, and from experience, your body is capable of so much more. It's the mind that would tend to give up first, barring an injury.
So what the coach did with me, we did the first 3 listed everything that I was afraid of. So I had to make a long list, and it was like, oh, well, you know, being alone in the dark, and somewhere really remote where I'm totally by myself is scary for me. And so anyways, I wrote all these things down. And then the other thing that I found really intimidating, that really did affect my mental state, was just feeling like I didn't belong, like I wasn't cool enough, or I didn't have the right kit, or I just didn't really get it. But it made me feel really out of place at the events, and like I must be doing something wrong. And that really also affected my mental state. And so what I did with the coach, I worked on like lots of different visualizations, and we did like really, really detailed visualizations of everything from like arriving at the race and seeing everybody else to being on the start line, to, you know, approaching cold and freezing rivers or just river crossings in general, to kind of being in the dark and alone. And I had to do these detailed visualizations and do exactly what I would do in that circumstance, to the extent that like my river crossing technique was like, okay, first I get to the river, I sit down on a rock, then I eat a snack, then I look at the river and I think about how I'm going to cross it, and I see if anybody else comes along so I can see what the best place to cross it is. And you know, just like super detailed about, okay, just visualizing like, where am I going to put my foot, okay, how am I going to put the next foot, what happens if my foot feels like it's going to slip, or if it's cold, and just super detailed. And then I had to repeat these visualizations in my head like multiple times, every day, to kind of picture it. But honestly, I just had to do each visualization once, and it just changed everything for me. It was mad how much it changed.
There's things that so I have like a like kind of like steps that I'll go through as soon as like things are getting tough or harder, or if you're on a hard climb, for example. So if I start feeling a little bit low, like where I think I'm just getting a bit like, oh, this is a bit hard, or why am I doing this, or things like that. Like, unfortunately, I don't really get that very often at all. But if I do, as soon as I think, oh, this might be going south, or it's getting late into the night, I just rely. I mean, I know music has different effects on different people, but I really, really rely on music, especially through the night. You know, there's that reaction people have to music called frisson, I think it's called, where you get that like that dopamine release. So it'll be, you get like goosebumps on your skin if you hear a really good song, or a song from when you were younger, or things like that. So I have like basically a playlist of songs that I know that I just love, that really helps me get through things. And then I also, as soon as I'm feeling a bit down and out, whatever I'm eating, I'll double up on, especially at night. I'll have some caffeine, and you just sort of have that like 3-punch combo of good music, double up your food, double up your caffeine, and then you know that if I can carry on another 30 minutes, this is all going to kick in. I'm going to feel fine. Having those, you know, you can get the alarm on your computer to remind you to eat.
Yeah.
You know, you can add in like a message on some of them. So like, eat, drink, music, eat, drink, music, eat, drink, music, and then you go, oh yeah, okay, which is funny because it's like your brain just switches off when you're however many hours into some of these races.
So right, I'm a therapist, and so I like, you know, study how the brain works and stuff. And so there's this whole thing where when you smile through things, your brain has a positive association with it, right? So like this act alone. So I do that sometimes, and I think that also adds a lot, right? So this idea of like, even though this hill really sucks, I'm gonna smile and I'm gonna tell my brain we're having a really good time. And so I think Donna will talk about that. Be like, you were complaining the whole time. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was having so much fun. So there is this like idea though of like smiling and like really embracing it, because I do think like, you know, the more upset, the more we can get like in that negative headspace, the harder it is. And I think that is when like scratching or other things can feel appealing, or these comforts can feel enticing. But if you learn how to just embrace it and have fun with it, and like again smile through the adversity in those moments, it will, you know, just help find those good moments, I think, and glimmers.
If I look back at Alperi, I think I must have been riding with a smile on my face. So all of the rides.
Because it's so special. It really is. And, you know, I think you have to be you know, in tune with your own feelings. It is quite humbling to think when you're out there, I am really lucky. There's loads of people that don't get to experience that. And, you know, we are really lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess again, it's just that like gratitude. It's so fun. And I think it's like you can find those moments where it's like these glimmers of excitement. And like, I don't know, I think John and I'd always joke too, like if we're not having fun, what are we doing wrong? And like, so then usually be like, okay, I need to eat more food then. Like if I can't access that part of me, right? So it's like, okay, maybe I need some more food. Maybe I need to drink some more water. Maybe I actually need to just get off my bike and do some silly stretches. And like, so that
maybe I need to sing a karaoke song.
I
Shout
do
out to Al.
sing a lot of songs. Yeah, yeah, make up silly songs about things.
Yeah. There's a term I've maybe not coined, but I came to it by myself, you know, as most things on the internet. But of enjoyance, which is sort of what we were talking about earlier. It's, endurance is about, it implies this idea of like everything is so difficult and you must endure. It must be as hard as humanly possible. And I think the skill that we're talking about, right, that Erin is like, I look up to with it is being able to find the joy and enjoy those moments, and like the skill of, yeah, I'm not having fun. I'm not enjoying this. What can I do to make it enjoyable, right? It's like, oh, I didn't eat enough. Oh, I didn't drink enough. Oh, I'm just like, if I sing a song, it'd be more fun, right? And that skill, along with obviously basic survival skills and camping and health, like we're talking about the mental health. I want to go back and say, you also need to be ready for the physical part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
that also, yes.
Once you figure all that out, being able to, find the joy in every moment is such a skill, and that, endurance of positivity and joy and fun is in and of itself a skill that, and a muscle that you can train.
And I'm banking memories. I've got it.
Yeah.
It's a very, very special thing that we can travel so far with everything on our bike and experience these incredible places.
My thanks to Lynn and to Oscar, to Steve and Jake, to Erin and Jono, and to Kat for their fantastic insights and contributions to this video. Longer versions of their interviews will be available later on this channel, so please subscribe and hit the notifications bell to be notified of when those are available. So why don't you add your thoughts in the comments below? What helps you mentally prepare for an ultra race or event? Love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.